if we have a pirate captain, it kind of makes sense that the pirates applies to ship. So I sort of feel like it should be Halo's ship.
Does that make sense with me joining last? Or it's like part of why y'all brought me on is I came with the ship?
Yeah, like we need a ride basically here. You know.
I love that convenience idea. Like, yes, we would love you, Hala, and also your ship.
Yeah.
I'm Bill, designer of Restore the Warp. Thank you for coming to check out our actual play video. The players will be joining us in a few minutes, but I thought I would give an introduction first so you can see what we're doing. This is a science fantasy TTRPG about cosmic drama and personal struggles. Our touchstones are going to be things like Star Wars, Mass Effect, Avengers Infinity War, the StarCraft games, Futurama, Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. There's a pretty wide range. When I run the game, it feels the most like Guardians of the Galaxy, but it's possible to take the game in different directions. We're using Google Sheets, which you can see beside me here. And I'll start by talking about the concept, which is the page that we're on here. I'll read the blurb. Interstellar travel is about to get wrecked. Invaders have summoned the Warp God with a plan to steal its powers. If they succeed, the entire universe will be planet-locked, with only invaders traveling from star to star, while a wounded angry god screams across the void. Join a team of robots with glowing swords, stressed-out gadgeteers, and aliens that look like pandas. Fight for the worlds you love. Believe you will see them again. Now, the core rules of the game are the agendas. This is based on the Powered by the Apocalypse system, and in the same way, the game collapses gracefully. So if you're unable to remember some of the rules, just stay true to these ideas, and it should work out pretty well. Acknowledgement to the bakers, it's a great system. There's a lot of PBTA games that I've really enjoyed. The first agenda we're using is collaborate with the other players. Work together to give everyone room to develop characters. If someone gets stuck and they ask, offer suggestions, but let them make the final decision and go with it. 2, embrace serendipity and chaos. The story is more fun when it all ties back together. Look for chances to rip open wormholes and see long-lost friends on the other side. 3, protect the story's vibe and integrity. If your table story is absurdist, push the physics out of your mind. Stay true to your character's feelings, even if it hurts them. Say what's true. Your story will be richer for it. And finally, play to find out how hope survives. The heroes will win. That's not the question. How they do it is the mystery and the reason why we play. It's okay to have ideas early on, but let them go in the moment if needed. We've also got some content warnings here of things that often come up in science fantasy stories. Things like oppression from evil empires, torture, maybe in backstory or in present if you get captured, harm to animals from fighting alien beasts, body horror, mind control is included as a character power in some places, reminiscent of things like Jedi mind tricks. So these things often come up, but you can decide how much you want to engage with. When I played with the players you're going to be seeing, we did safety tools. I just cut that part out of the stream. So things like lines and veils helped us decide how much to engage with. We also, as we played, we're using the X card, script change, and an open door policy for people that wanted to leave to get water or deal with a dog you might hear barking in the background once or twice. So yeah, that's our setup. The other thing I wanted to mention, give you an idea of a couple of rules. Like I said, this is a Powered by the Apocalypse game, so we use moves, which you might be familiar with. What that means is we're telling a story, we're describing what our characters are doing, and when characters are described doing certain things, then we zip into one of these moves, and it takes over for a moment to tell us what happens next, and then we go straight back into the story. As an example, Showdown, this is our move for fighting, sometimes intimidating, or racing cars. When you showdown with a foe, check in, then roll plus steal. Trade impact and danger. On a 6-, their danger is more than expected. On a 7 to 9, choose 2. On a 10+, choose 3. There's a couple options here. Another thing to call out, the part where it says check in, and then mentioning impact and danger. I'll scroll down and I'll show you how that works too. So every time we roll, we're going to discuss ratings. How big of a change are we discussing? What are the stakes of the roll? It says impact refers to changes the PCs make to the fiction. Dangers refer to bad things that can happen to them. Both can have ratings as none, minor, moderate, or major. This can also be expressed as a number from 0 to 3. You might have to mark certain resources or gain things or lose things. Ratings of impact and danger can be adjusted sometimes, even multiple notches, by the following factors: potency, scale, footing. Potency would be like using a flamethrower on plants where it's vulnerable. Scale, you're a lot bigger or a lot smaller. And footing would be a strategic advantage of some kind. Maybe you surprised your enemy. We will be explaining this as the game goes on. I'll be teaching the rules to the players as we play, but knowing these up front might help ground you. As a side note, if the ratings and impact thing sounds familiar, it's similar to Position and Effects in Blades in the Dark by John Harper. It's a little simplified though. For example, there's no Devil's Bargain, so that's not part of this system. Yeah, let's go join our players. They're about to make the characters by starting with the villains, and then I'll explain how they make their characters along after that as well. We're live. So the first part of character creation, or cast creation actually in this game, because we're making other characters too, is building the evil empire that we're going to be fighting against. On the setup tab, we've got cast creation steps on the left if you want to try and reference yourself, but I'll explain them as we go along. Right next to that is the invader details, so some things we're going to choose about them. John, can you read out the first question and the options for it?
This is for cast creation steps?
Invader details.
Oh, invader details. Sorry. Yeah. How is the Crown Empire's dominance of occupied landscapes visible? Choose from the list or make it up. So we have a few options here. Massive statues, Crown leaders tower over all, carved into mountains, projected in the sky, enchanted into ice sculptures that never ever melt. So sort of like totalitarian empire, statues everywhere. Laser turret flags, the tall flagpoles around the crown settlements are also laser turrets. Targeting protocols rarely target citizens by accident, they say. And stained glass, colored glass is everywhere, altering windows, twined along trees, stabbed in the dirt. Then also, I guess there's another question, but maybe we should deal with this one first.
Yeah, I like to go usually one at a time. The first question is more of the visual elements to help keep the presence in view. And usually I let one person decide each question at a time. So I'll give John final say on this one, but you can all discuss it and talk about what you're interested in.
Yeah, what do you guys think? What sort of detail should we go for?
Never melting ice sculptures is really cool, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm also a big fan of like Easter Island style, like huge statues. Seems very
I mean,
fun.
this is like an empire, right? So maybe it really depends on the like the biome that they're in, right? So if you're in like a desert world, you're carving things into giant rock formations, if you're etc. Like, but there's statues particular to each planet. I also kind of like the idea that they, like, I don't know, maybe they transform pre-existing statues or something like that. Could be interesting. But like your Mount Rushmore is now just suddenly reptiles or whatever the crown are.
That is very fun.
But with ubiquitous kind of like dictatorial, totalitarian style statues everywhere.
Unmute. This does remind me, I haven't actually talked about the empire you're fighting against that much. I'm going to share a picture in, I can figure out how to do this. Maybe I can't add the window right now. But the idea is the crowns, if you've read the Saga comics, it's kind of similar where there's different sort of looks for it in terms of like reptile people or robot people or bird people or whatever. But they've all got something on their head, like either horns or crests or maybe magnetic halos they've set up. Some kind of crown on their head is the theme of the empire. So it doesn't have to necessarily be like racially pure fascist kind of thing, but more of like a visual thing that unites them all. I like the ice sculptures idea. I don't remember if I've used that one before, so that's a cool reference for us. Jex, can you read the second question about oppressive rules?
What oppressive rules do they enforce on the populace? Choose from the list or make it up. The coronation. Citizens must attend ceremonies that make horns or fins erupt from their foreheads. No rotation. Worlds are declared either day or night worlds, honoring the home planet, which is tidally locked. Citizens must try to comply. Makeshift crowns. Citizens must make their own headpiece to celebrate their leaders, fashioned from hairspray, wilted flowers, magnetic halos, etc. These are all fun. What do other folks think?
I mean, I do love a good visual. The idea of homemade crowns made out of anything that you can find seems really fun and like pretty playful. Um, yeah, that one immediately spoke to me, but I am open to others.
I think that kind of fits with the sort of statues everywhere customized to the place idea. It's like, yeah, we're a totalitarian empire, but like, think locally. Like there's like they let bits of the local culture survive and look, it's not so bad, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's fun. Um, I feel like if we were playing like a campaign, the no rotation would be really fun to get to see how that plays out. But since this is a one shot, I think something that's more immediate makes sense. I love makeshift crowns. Um, do we think like they have to wear them all the time, or they have to wear them like on holidays? Like anyone have thoughts on that?
All the time is a lot, but interesting. Like maybe like whenever the imperial officials are present, like the rule says all the time, but no one does it all of the time, you know. But like when the stormtroopers are there, like everyone get out your headgear.
Yeah, the idea that it must be portable so that it can be thrown on whenever, the superiors are in sight, is a pretty funny concept.
People like carry them on like hooks on their belts or something, right? So that they're kind of always there, and that way they're sort of always complying. But yeah, uh, can change things up quickly if needed.
Bill, do you have a default kind of political structure for the Crown Empire? Like, do they have a single emperor, or is there a council, or is there any sort of sketched in default hierarchy or political system for them?
No, there's actually a step in cast creation where someone will get to choose that because each of the character archetypes you can choose, they come tied with like an important backstory person. And one of those will get assigned to be our important like main reference point with the crowns. And then that person will get to set up like, oh, they usurped the top thing and they're like the top leader, or like, oh, there's a shadowy council we know nothing about and they're just like the enforcer for this area of the universe or something. I have some suggestions, but there's nothing canon. That's generally how I approach setting for the game. Is there's not a lot of canon. I try to set it up so you can make up whatever you want and you're not wrong. Like the one kind of canon thing is that there's more than one Earth because terraforming is out there and people have made lots of Earths. We don't know which one is the real one anymore. So even if you all wanted to come from Earth, you could make your own version of Earth that you came from as well. I think we're ready for actually picking characters, speaking of characters. So if you go to the characters tab, we've got 5 archetypes we're playing with in the Ashcan. We've got the Big Brute, the Gadgeteer, the Renegade, the Starblade, and the Tempest.
In our game today, Megan's going to be playing the Gadgeteer based on a bunch of Marvel superheroes, but also people like Professor Farnsworth from Futurama. Jax is playing the Renegade based on people like Han Solo from Star Wars and Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. John's playing the Tempest, a character with some swirling powers inside, reminiscent of people like River from Firefly or Eleven from Stranger Things. Each archetype has their own feature with some selections to be made. For Megan's Gadgeteer, she gets to choose a couple inventions she has ready in her pack. She chose a caged swarm of angry B-shaped robots and an irresistible candy that everyone will love. For Jax and the Renegade, we get to choose a couple of thrills that they're excited to seek out during the mission. They picked they want to steal a weapon, punch a bully, and press a mystery button. For John's Tempest, they get some swirling powers, as I mentioned, and he chose to have a spirit medium power, so he's going to be able to hear ghosts and bring them physical form when he unleashes his powers fully. Next, they get to adjust their stats. So the starting stats for the Gadgeteer are -1 Steel, 0 for Poise, 2 for Guile, and -1 Heart. If you add those together, it just equals 0, so we're going to get to add +1 5 times, like adding 5 points, up to a maximum of 3 in any stat. Megan chose to bring her Gadgeteer up to 0 Steel, 2 Poise, 3 Guile, and 0 Heart. The next step is to make some selections for belongings. They get combat gear, tactical kits, and a personal item. For the combat gear, this gives it some kind of special function that makes the character play a bit more fun. For the Gadgeteer here, Megan chose the portal, so she can make portals and teleport between different spots. This doesn't say what it looks like. She could have chosen to have this be a knife that she cuts things out with, or a gun of some sort, or a mushroom, whatever her imagination brought her to. We'll see what she comes up with a little bit later in play. Finally, they got to choose names, pronouns, and looks for their characters. You can see Jex's Renegade on screen, but I'll let the players describe themselves when they come back together because they'll be doing little introductions.
Okay, so we're not going to introduce your characters just yet. We're actually going to make background characters now for you. If you scroll down to the part that says pillar, each of you has an important person that you're connected to, and we're going to assign them roles. For the Gadgeteer, you're connected to the AI. For the Renegade, you're connected to the Pirate Captain. And for the Tempest, you're connected to the Caretaker. I think some people, there's still some writing happening, so I'll wait a second.
I can come back to finishing my look.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've usually been starting with John for reading because he's played the game the most. John, can you read who the caretaker is? Just the first 2 lines there.
Absolutely. The caretaker is someone who takes in the often powerful lost, like Professor X or a Chancellor Palpatine. Interesting. Very different kinds of characters here.
Yeah, the idea is the reference there's a more friendly one and a more hostile one because they're either going to get assigned to be like the founder of the team, the person that brought you all together, or a main villain that's working with the crowns. Jex, can you read for the Pirate Captain?
The Pirate Captain, leader of the space pirates, like Arya Tlok from Mass Effect or Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy.
And Megan, can you read for the AI?
The AI, an AI that has copied itself numerous times, rising to prominence, like Samantha, her, or Ultron, Marvel.
Yeah, so now you get to decide together. One of these brought you together as a team. One of these has joined the crowns, is like our main reference point with the villains. And then we'll have a third person that can kind of go either way. So does something stand out? Do you think your person feels like they would be helpful or villainous?
I kind of like if the Pirate Captain could be the more neutral one. Maybe helpful sometimes, and also will, don't be surprised if you're double crossed.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Like a neutral. Yeah.
That sounds great. Morally ambivalent. I'm tempted to say mine should be a bad guy, although I kind of also like the idea of a bad guy who's had a change of heart or something like that. So I could really go either way. But Megan, how do you feel about yours, the AI?
I'm pretty easy. So if you have a strong feeling, I would go with your preference.
At the moment, I'm not very happy with AI.
Right? Okay, let's make AI the bad guy.
Sure.
Okay.
So I guess mine's a good guy then.
Oh yeah, I guess that's how that works. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a
I was
couple probing questions I'm going to ask to get more detail here in a second. I'm just dropping them into the chat. I don't have them all in
Mhm.
the document, so you can keep chatting, but I'll probe in a second.
My sort of concept for my character that I'm roughly kind of considering is that they're like someone who has some sort of psychic potential, who's been rewired and modified by the crown to act as a kind of interrogator of the dead or something like that, like a necromantic kind of character, because I picked spirit medium for my um, power. I sort of like the idea that maybe, in their actual culture that they would have belonged to, they might have been a priest or shaman kind of figure. But the Empire is like, oh no, we'll actually just snatch you and use you for our own purposes. So I kind of like the idea that the caretaker runs this program, this like necromancy factory kind of idea. But maybe they've gone rogue. Maybe they've started to have second thoughts or something like that. This is my rough idea.
And for how this, sorry, for the kind of good pillar, is this somebody who would be kind of like helping group us together kind of
Well, it says
situation?
it's a Professor X figure, right?
Yeah,
So it could be interesting if it's basically like a dissident, like someone from within the Empire who's gotten, who's had second thoughts, or who now opposes them. Like, but I kind of like the idea that they're like a former Imperial officer kind of thing, like a turncoat, you know?
right.
Okay. So I dropped a couple things in the chat. I'll read out this time. So for founders, there's a couple options I usually use to structure this. Maybe they're a strategist. They have a master plan and you're part of it. They're cryptic when explaining details. B, vanguard. They have fought the invaders longer than anyone and have grown desensitized to harsh tactics. C, patron. They have the means and tools to support you, but struggle to fight on their own. Or D, figurehead, the natural leader or representative of your cause, but they need you for actual change. I'm not sure if any of those resonate, or you had this turncoat concept you were talking about.
So sorry for, can you just explain all these crown pillars? These are like archetypes that could apply to any of these, like to the AI, to the pirate captain, or to the caretaker. Is that the idea?
Yeah, so the rules we're signing now are either
Mhm.
founder, major team,
Right.
or foe with the crowns. I think you'd been saying that AI was crown foe because AI bad, and then that was
Mhm.
meaning caretaker, founder person.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, so they don't have to have any connection with the crown. If you wanted to have this turncoat
Mhm.
thing, that's kind of a bonus tie-in we could have, but
Yeah, interesting.
yeah,
It
it's
doesn't
not.
have to be that. Maybe there's someone who broke me out of the program, Because the other thought I had was like, oh, maybe they're like a ghost, like if my job was to interrogate the dead or something like that. It would be interesting to have like a dead character be significant, but I'm not sure.
I really like both of those ideas, or they're both super cool. The like,
Like
mhm.
patron here, right? They have the means and tools to support you, but struggle to fight on their own. Like maybe because they're dead, you know, like, maybe this is like the leader of a resistance on this planet who has been like completely killed, but like they're still around. I can talk to them.
Interesting. As a ghost, do you think they would have inside access, haunting specific areas? Is that what they're like
Yeah,
feeding us intel kind of thing?
yeah, because like I like the idea that my character's pretty radicalized by talking to victims of the Empire, like I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be serving them, but actually I end up pretty um, against them.
Yeah. For this point, the main thing I wanted to do was establish rules for them, and then the details we can flesh out individually a little bit. We're approaching the hour mark for taking our first break. So it sounds like we've established Megan's going to develop the AI as our baddie. John's going to develop the caretaker as our founder. And then Jex had talked about the pirate captain being kind of neutral, which I'd like to tie them a little closer to one of the sides, and it might be easier to make them kind of a, what's the term? Like a founder that we have mixed feelings about then, because the trouble with neutral parties sometimes is they're just harder to tie into the story, and especially in a one-shot, we just might not see or hear from them again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Then I feel like maybe kind of something similar to a strategist or vanguard for the pirate. I guess maybe strategist. I like the idea that there's maybe some kind of behind the scenes manipulation going on. How do folks feel about that?
Sounds great. Yeah.
Yep, I'm into it.
Yeah, like I'm thinking patron for my build. Does that make sense for the caretaker?
Yeah. The terms, I think, maybe not as important. They're kind of helpful touchstones, and then you can build off of it and take it in your own direction. Yeah, I think the key thing is that we've got a connection where we might talk to them again, but they can't be doing too much on their own because I'm going to make you do stuff. So that's the general structure I want. They're kind of quest givers, like they can send you to go do stuff is the idea. Yeah. I think this is a good point for taking our first break. You can brainstorm a little more if you want to develop your ideas. And then when we come back, we'll have a couple final questions for putting the team together, and we'll try to start in on our mission. Do you have questions before we break?
Nope, sounds good.
Hello. Okay, so welcome back. If you're following the cast creation steps back on the setup page, we are at assemble the team. So it says choose the order you joined the team and mark a dynamic for how you feel about it. I like to do introductions around here too, because we haven't talked about our characters really yet. So you kind of got two characters to introduce. You can talk about your main character and then your pillar person that you're attached to. Yeah. Sorry, John, I don't know if you want to keep going first or if we should start mixing up the order.
I've written in all my stuff, so I'm happy to talk about. Do you want me to talk about the pillar or my character or both?
You can kind of do both together.
Sure.
At some point when you talk about your character, it's also helpful to talk about how your feature works because they're all different.
Right.
And if we understand each other's features a little bit, it can help us play into them.
Right. Yeah, so my character's name is Winter. He, him. He's a Tempest. His Tempest power. Sorry, is that what you mean by feature?
Yeah, for you, that's your feature.
Yeah. His Tempest power is a spirit medium, which is the always state of it, like the thing that I can just do is I can hear the advice, warnings, and oaths of the dead. When you listen to their whispers, ask the GM what they say. When I unleash, I can describe the spirit I imbue with visibility and physical form, like I can make an apparition. Say whether its purpose is to bring closure to the living or vengeance to the dead. So I like the idea that my character, who I've described in the little look here as bald, corpse pale, riddled with cybernetic implants, covered with intricate tattoos in multiple languages, prayers to various gods of death, with veins that darken and protrude when he uses his powers to commune with the dead. I always play a weird little guy, and this is my weird little guy for this one. So sort of an unwilling cyborg. Like I said, I like the idea that he's a sort of imperial interrogator, of necromantic interrogator. So instead of having to only ask questions from the living, ask questions from ghosts. So then I've got the caretaker character who I've called General Boudica, spectral rebel leader. So think of like the hologram of Mon Mothma or whatever, except just like actually a ghost, like an apparition. and she's like the leader of some planetary resistance, or rather, it could be a larger resistance, who's killed by the Crown Empire, but is now haunting the Empire, along with the rest of the... We clearly have established the ghosts exist, if spirit mediums exist. So she's kind of haunting the Empire, and has made contact with me, and can make contact with others through like dreams or nightmares. So this is like a way maybe to bring the characters together, because this is often the character who does that. So that's my idea for that. If anyone doesn't like bits of that or wants to modify things, please go ahead. I'm happy to change stuff.
It is super cool.
Thank you.
Should I
I'm
go?
starting to scribble notes in my GM thing, so if I'm less talkative, that might be why. But yeah, Jax, I think you can go ahead.
Cool. So I am playing Hala Marrow, the Renegade. Uses she or they pronouns. Hala has short cropped hair, strong jaw, a nose that's obviously been broken many times. Kind of has scars on her arms and fingers, but those are usually covered by long sleeves and gloves. She wears a lot of like dark, kind of flowing cloaks and scarves made from a lightweight fabric. The idea being that she can discard or add layers very easily. She also carries a hidden locket. I don't know the details of that yet. For stats, I have Steel of 1, Poise 0, Guile 1, and Heart of 3. Features, Gambler's Luck. So I start with 2 coins. At any time, instead of rolling dice, I can flip coins, declare how many I'll flip. If there are any heads, I treat those as a 10 plus and discard the coins. If all tails, it's a 6 minus, but keep the coins. And to gain more coins, see Thrill Seeker. So Thrill Seeker at the start of play, mark 3 thrills. When I pull those off, then I get coins. There's a little bit more to it than that, but the 3 I picked, and I thought this was a really smart way to kind of flag things for play. Pull an alarm, punch a bully, and steal a weapon. So if folks notice any opportunities to do those things, feel free to give me an elbow. And then for the pillar, I chose the pirate, or I have the pirate captain, leader of the space pirates. His name is Atticus Marrow. No relate. What do you mean? No, of course no relation. What do you ask? Why would you ask that? He is bat-like, however, I am human, so obviously we can't be related. He has a very dignified look, and I think his fleet are noble. This is sort of like a I almost think of like the gentleman pirate kind of thing, only with a crew that's very much in line with that. So I think that they dress very nicely. They probably aren't immediately noticed as pirates. Should I answer the backstory question, or we'll come back around to those?
Oh yeah, sorry, you can do that. I don't know if I could have said that before, but if you have
Okay,
an idea, say it.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't see that John had filled his out. Yeah. So you served with the pirate captain until the invaders ended that time in your life. What do you miss most? And how is this new team recapturing the old feeling? I mean, I think I just missed the thrill, right? Of pulling off heists and various jobs. And so I think, yeah, this team is giving me some of that same juice.
Megan, can you tell us about your character?
Yes. Okay. Jim. That's my character's name. That's the one I chose specifically. Pronouns she, her. The look. I think I'm going for kind of a situation where obviously a lot of focus is put on my creative genius and less so on Jim's appearance. She's not super concerned about brushing, neither her hair nor her teeth. Is a fan of probably garlic amongst other smelly spices. So it's just all kind of happening. She's a fun, odorous genius. And then also likes to have many accessories just in case, lightning strikes and she feels the need to kind of invent or to tinker with something. For my stats, heart I was told was important, so I just kept that at a 0. Why help the team? Let's keep that kind of low. Guile 3, poise 2, and steel also a goose egg. I'm gonna leave that at 0 too. My features, as I said before, I see no situation that couldn't be bettered by a cage of angry bees that are robots. So I kept that in my idea pack. And then also an irresistible candy everyone will love. That's how you were gonna, bribe somebody. Some really good candy is also likely a worthwhile invention to create some cash. So irresistible candy is also a feature that I went for. Am I going what's next, Bill? Pillar?
Yeah, tell us about your AI, your concept for it.
Okay. So I don't have a ton. So if you folks want to help me kind of build a little bit, but I love an uninspiring name, George. AI is George. That's the name that we chose. And I have this kind of idea that I know that I want George to be kind of an intellectual property thief. So at some point, really stealing my ideas without giving credit, and that's what's created that disconnect and is a real enemy to Jim. But I'm not really feeling a lot of inspiration for what George might look like. You folks have any thoughts on what George AI could appear as?
Intellectual property thief is interesting. Like my first thought is like an identity thief, in which case George looks like anyone, like just like talks, like so imagine like deep fakes. Do you know what I mean? Like George
Yeah,
looks like
yeah.
you and me and whoever George wants to be, and you never actually quite know if you're talking to George or the real person, which is very creepy.
Yes.
I do like the idea because there's that sort of like always has, right? Like there's some tell, but it's something so small that like I think it's hard for people to notice maybe.
Too many fingers.
Oh no, too real. X card.
Let's do yeah, I really like that. So could we have just so the visual is that it's kind of reflecting back. George is reflecting back whoever they choose. Is that what kind of the AI is going for, kind of thing, do you think? That seems, I think, pretty interesting. Is there something else that you need, Bill?
I would like to develop a little bit about how they're connected to the Crown Empire here. So it sounds like maybe Crown is shadowy in the background. Maybe we don't really know that much about them. They've been using George as kind of like the friendly face of the invasion. Maybe like on different worlds, they use different people to be the face of that. Does that sound right?
Can I make a suggestion? It's an intellectual property thief, and this is an empire, right? What if George's programming is basically to like steal the culture of everywhere it goes? Like the first thing you do is arrive at the local internet and be like, okay, we'll steal all of that and absorb it. And so like George is like the thing that is just like gonna suck in all of the art and like a large language model, but sort of mixed with ideas of like cultural appropriation or something like that,
I think that's cool, and I wonder if we can like combine that sort of idea of George being like the pleasant face, but then also at the same time, right, this sort of stuff is going on in the background. So George probably has some sort of look that's tuned to like the culture that's being stolen, right? I also, Megan, I really liked the way you described George being a reflection of the person whose identity was stolen, and I wonder if part of the sort of tell that George has to do with it being like almost like a literal reflection, like things are transposed left and right or something.
That's so good.
Yes. Yeah. Big like checks.
Cool. I like that too because I think that gives it kind of like that uncanny feeling that we were kind of aiming for earlier. I like the feel there. Yeah, I just realized with our pillars, it doesn't have a spot for pronouns actually. So just to check quickly, for General Boudica, what pronouns are we using?
She, her, I think.
Okay. For Atticus?
He, him.
And for George?
I think for George, any pronoun I think is going to be fine there.
Cool. So to recap, we have Winter the Tempest, Hala Marlowe the Renegade, and Jim the Gadgeteer. So what order do you think you joined the team? It was General Boudica that brought the team together, we're saying. I don't know if that has to mean Winter was first.
Not necessarily, but it would kind of make sense, I would say. Like, it's the intuitive leap is like, right, I'm the one who can speak to the dead. This is my pillar. It probably makes sense usually if there's a Tempest on the team and and this is our kind of patron character, that I would be the first. So that would be my guess. But if other people have thoughts, I do not need to be the first at all.
I would kind of like to be the last. I don't know, Megan, if you have any strong feelings. I'm kind of thinking of Hala almost as sort of being a little bit of an orphan in a way, right? So I could imagine the pilot episode of this where, she kind of becomes part of the crew.
Yeah, I'm happy to be the middle recruit, and that works for me. I think I just kind of pictured Jim being. I think Jim would have to be kind of recruited. I don't know if she would really get her head out there to go initiating this, but once her genius was requested and recognized, she was on board.
Cool.
That makes sense. So maybe Winter, Jim, and then Hala.
And then on your sheet, if you start near the top, scroll down past stats, processing, and conditions, you'll see the dynamics section. These are the happy teamwork feelings: revelry, gratitude, trust, solace, and stability. You each get to pick one of these for how you feel about the team so far, to give us kind of a camaraderie to start with. So yeah, choose one, and how does the team make you feel?
I think for Hala, it's definitely gratitude, though she probably doesn't verbalize that. But I think she's happy to have a place.
I'm gonna go for stability and just in a kind of like sense of, okay, we've got people, like, not alone in this. Maybe like I get the sense maybe Winter is a kind of on the run kind of character. That seems like the Tempest thing. Like River is a touchstone and that kind of idea. Someone who's broken out of the Imperial facility. So, people. Oh my God, probably not trust though.
Yeah, can I also go for gratitude, Bill? Is that allowed?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, I feel like Jim is also, some gratitude to just kind of be in the team, not having to work too hard to look for some extra, people to be around, but not very vocal about the gratitude, that's for sure.
Can you click the box beside gratitude? Great. And then making a starship is kind of optional, but it's sometimes a fun step. A helpful guidance is that usually the starship was given by one of your patrons. So this could be an old pirate captain ship that we're still flying around on, because I think we'd mentioned that Hala was maybe the pilot. Or it could be something that, like an old ghost ship, maybe a wreckage that you were guided to at some point. What kind of ship do we see ourselves flying around?
If we have a pirate captain, it kind of makes sense that the pirate supplies the ship. So I sort of feel like it should be Hala's ship.
Does that make sense with me joining last? Or it's like part of why y'all brought me on is because I came with a ship.
Yeah, like we need a ride basically here. You know.
I love that convenience idea. Like, yes, we would love you, Hayla, and also your ship? Question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think that I don't think that it was given to us by Atticus. Or given to me by Atticus. I think I stole it from Atticus. Since we have that idea of Atticus being kind of like, not as straightforward of a founder as General Boudica. Yeah, I think it's a stolen pirate ship. I will think about the name, or if anyone has any suggestions, I'm happy to hear them.
So
There
I
are suggestions for starship names and looks on the setup page as well. But again, you don't have to use those.
what I just think would be very funny is if you unknowingly stole a haunted ship with just a really obnoxious ghost that just drives, uh, our local necromancer wild. That's really funny.
I think I'm pretty mad in a kind of gothic way anywhere I go within this blood-stained existence. So, that's a great idea. So, a pirate ship is going to be just lousy with ghosts, infest like every boarding action, every prisoners brought on board, like all of that stuff. It's going to be gruesome.
I think I like the name from the list, Absolution.
Cool. I like the vision we're making of the ship so far. So sometimes to save time, I just skip the starship and have you start already landed somewhere. But I think I'm cool with us starting on the starship here. So on my page, the GM thing, this game uses grids to measure progress towards things. So I'm going to start by naming the first one. So the scenario that we're starting with is you've been fighting the invaders for some time. You haven't had that much success so far. You've tried to rally together planets to try and build an army. You haven't really been that successful. Maybe you have some of the pirates behind you, actually. We could talk about whether you've been able to recruit a big pirate flock, or if that's maybe been some of the schism. The pirates wanted to stay out of this for a while. And then the big turn where we start is we have found out that the Crowns have kind of summoned and trapped the god of interstellar travel somewhere. And you know that they're trying to steal the powers for themselves to try and shut things down so everyone gets trapped, like mentioned in the blurb. Yeah, so our first kind of question is where that's happening and how you found out. Maybe we're on our ship when we start and it's one of these ghosts on board has kind of heard something through the Ghost Whisper network. That feels like a way that we could have this information come to you, if that feels right.
Totally, yeah. So Winter would find out while being bothered by some. I like the idea of a ghost whisper network, like ghosts can talk to one another. Like maybe I don't know. There's like we haven't really gone through ghost metaphysics, but maybe ghosts are able to move through dimensions. I'm thinking like a Beetlejuice situation or something. Like they can visit the afterlife and come back, like, or Hamlet's ghost, like part of the time they're in the afterworld and part of the time they're here, or something like that. But yeah, I love that idea that maybe someone died and brought this information into the ghost nexus.
Interesting, because I do have an idea of the planet that I want to send you to, I think. So
yeah.
I think I know maybe where that's going to head you. Do you have like a bunk that you hang out in on the ship, or which room? Are you by the engine? What's your job aboard?
Winters?
Yeah.
I feel like Winters. Cook is great, actually. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'm in the kitchen.
Okay. So
yeah, I have no problem dealing with meat.
So my vision is we've got kind of camera over your shoulder as Winter is stirring some big stew pot with various things popping out of it. And then like a ghost's head kind of pops out of the soup and just shouts like, Winter, grave danger. I need to choose a name. Also on the setup page. Let's go with the Dreamer as the name of our warp god for today. The Dreamer is under attack on Greenery. I've heard it through the Whisper Network. We must go. We must go now.
I'm very alarmed. Who are you exactly?
I'm picturing this is one of the pirate ghosts we've had around here. So,
right.
Bucky feels like a good pirate name to me.
Mm.
I'm assuming, like, do you know all the ghosts, or is it always kind of new ghosts popping?
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, this is like someone I would know really well. Or maybe there's just so many of them that I lose track, which is kind of an interesting idea. I also love the idea that they're all kind of gruesome and, laser burned or whatever, but in a kind of fun, hokey kind of way. I will mash whatever calm button I need to let everyone know that I may have a lead on the Crown Empire's next move.
If we're picturing, I guess, a lot of different ghosts and maybe various relationships with them, we could actually do our first rule here. If you go to the Moves tab, under Basic Moves, there's the Campaign Moves, and one of them is Familiar Face, if we want to give this ghost a little more personality. I'm not sure how much they'll come up again later. It says, when you recall someone you know right in front of you or nearby, decide their rating with the GM. Then roll +1 for each of the following. You are away from prying eyes. You have a good rep in the area. It's been a while since you saw a friend. So, yeah, away from prying eyes, maybe I think you're the only person in the kitchen here.
That makes sense.
So that's 1 yes. Do you have a good rep on the ship? Do the ghosts usually like you?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. Maybe mixed. Because I think I'm probably annoyed by... This is not a gift that I asked for. Like, I have the feeling the Empire turned this on. I can't turn it off. So I'm kind of harried by them, So I'm probably annoyed at them all the time.
And then the last one, it's been a while since you saw a friend.
Sure. I think that makes sense.
So roll 2d6 +2.
I got an 8 on the 2d6, so +2 would be 10.
Roll a d6 again. This is going to be a helpful person.
That's a 4, so Gatekeeper.
Okay, so Bucky was maybe like a powerful person among the pirates, but they're also not really sure if they trust you yet. But you're the only one they can talk to because nobody else can actually hear the ghosts. So that's kind of the tone that you're getting from Bucky here, I guess. Like, you must pass the information on. We must be heading to Greenery right away.
Very well. Don't startle me like that again. You can just come to the wall.
Bucky floats up out of the soup, but like nothing's sticking to him, so he's just like a normally looking ghost. I am fine. This is an urgent situation.
I understand. All right, so I hit whatever button turns on a red light in everyone's bunk to make them meet up.
Where are each of you when the lights go on? Do you have a room on the ship that you hang out, or what do you think you're doing?
I can go. I feel like Jim was definitely sleeping, just sleeping, doing nothing else. And when Buzzed comes in kind of like a grungy like bathrobe and bunny slippers.
Yeah, I think that Halo was also sleeping, but at the helm. I think we're just like going through space right now. It's probably more or less on autopilot, but she has like her feet up on the like console, and she has this like almost like cowboy looking hat that she has kind of over her face, Indiana Jones style, and also kind of like jumps a little bit at the sound of the chime or whatever it is. And yeah, makes her way to, would it be like to the galley? Is that probably like the meeting place?
That would make sense, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We convene in the kitchen.
Yeah, and so I think she walks into the kitchen, sees Winter, and says, "Oh, it's dinner already?"
I had a bit of an interruption. There's word of something going on Greenery. That ghost Bucky just jumped out of the soup and informs me. Sorry, Bill, remind me exactly what Bucky said in terms of what's occurring on Greenery.
I think maybe not that clear. Just shouting, "The Dreamer is under attack. The Dreamer.
The Dreamer is under attack.
Dreamer."
The warp god, the Dreamer, is under attack, presumably by the Empire.
Would Winter know? Like, you had some god stuff in your background. Winter knows about pantheons and things, or?
Yeah, I think like, Winter is a kind of multi-priest. Like he has been trained in all of the different religious traditions, so that he can communicate with the whatever ghosts he needs to.
Can I have Jim be like a little skeptical? Is that
That's
Winter?
awesome.
Is this like a real emergency? Not like the last time the last ghost sent us to the ice planet and they just wanted like their dog to go to somebody else? This is a real one. You're sure?
I'm just a messenger. What you want to make of Bucky saying this is, I'm just relaying what I've heard.
All right. Well, I guess we're going to Greenery then, right? It seems like a pretty good lead.
We don't have any better leads, so.
Yeah, it's been quiet looks at a watch that isn't there. It's been quiet for a lot longer than I would have hoped. So, yeah, let's find the action.
Bucky will be really annoying about it if we don't go, so we should probably go.
Yeah. Fine. I'm in. But if this is another ghost support helpline that we're just doing, I want a buffet of my choosing.
I'll put something in the meat maker.
It's gonna be Womp Rat again, isn't it?
Not my fault. That's all we have left.
So yeah, I think Greenery, I'm going to say, is a planet you've been to before. I'll ask you some more questions about it in a minute. But as you approach, first obstacle that I see is there's it's a fairly newly invaded planet. There's like a barrier of Starfleet armada. I forget what you call those, but like there's ships kind of guarding around the planet. So
like a blockade.
Yeah, that's maybe the word I'm looking for. So I don't know if you have some way that you want to try and sneak through, or just drive fast through, or shoot some of these starships, but that's our first obstacle as you're approaching.
This seems like a not me job, like people who are good with computers and or ships.
I was like the like bullshitting your way through something. That seems like maybe could be fun. I don't know if my stats help with that or not. But I mean, as pilot, it can be kind of, we're here on official business. Here's our, our codes that somehow mysteriously work, even though we procured them through very illegal means. Does that make sense as like an approach?
Yeah, I'm on board with that. I think
Classic.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So you're trying to radio ahead to someone and like use codes you said somehow?
Yeah. I think, basically like we're supposed to be here. We're a, have a delivery or whatever.
The classic, like these transponder codes are old, but they check out kind of.
Right.
deal.
Exactly. Yeah. Very, very Star Wars.
Okay. So you radio through, their face appears on your screen. It's a big fish person with like some frills around their head for their crown. And they're asking for your paperwork. Papers, please. You present them something that you've got here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, this is Captain Keandra Dog transmitting papers now.
Okay. I think this is going to be a good idea, probably. I'll read the 2 triggers and you can decide which one you think sounds better. So on the moves page under basic moves, navigate danger. When you navigate around dangers, say what you wish to avoid, check in, then roll plus poise. Or good idea. When you use a good idea in quotations to distract, trick, or gain an advantage, check in, then roll plus guile. This sounds like you're trying to trick, so I think the good idea move.
Yeah, that works out slightly better for me because I have 0 in poise.
Okay.
All right.
So the check-in, I set stakes here.
Okay.
If you're successful, you will get to pass through this barrier, and I'll start marking that grid to get closer to where the warp crowd thing is happening. If not, they're going to push back, and you'll have to find another way in, probably.
Mm-hmm.
So you can roll your 2d6 plus your guile.
Okay. I rolled before I knew that you were setting stakes, but I rolled a 10, and then plus guile is 1.
Nice. So I'll finish reading the move. On a 6-, there's a reason good idea was in quotations. On a 7+, you gain an opportunity or learn something valuable. On a 7 to 9, you would have had to choose either negative attention for you, negative attention for others, or your plan worked too well. But you were successful in getting through. So in the grid that I started, I'm going to mark the first 2 boxes. The way grids work, by default, I should back up. When we make rolls in this, I kind of talked about setting stakes and the effect that you would have. I can describe your impact on things as being like a little bit, kind of a medium amount, or a lot. I call it impact when you're making a change on the fiction. And I give it a rating, either minor, moderate, or major. By default, moderate. And moderate, it kind of tracks the numbers like 1, 2, 3. So I make 2 marks for moderate impact here. And when bad things are happening, I'm going to call it danger. And I'm also going to give that the same kinds of numbers, either 1, 2, or 3. If I wanted to backtrack, because this is the first roll we're doing, I can give a couple tips along the way. Jex, do you remember what you chose for your tactical kit? It looks like you chose a spy kit.
Yes.
So if we can say that you're using that, I could boost your impact. I could give you an extra check mark here. Do you think you have something in your spy kit that would be relevant?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's probably where this like, fake papers comes from. Like this is like a, this is like an code generated by the algorithm, but like within certain parameters that, it's going to match no matter what. Or I mean, not no matter what, but has higher likelihood of like matching.
Yeah. So like the way that you can improve your impact, have a bigger impact on things, are if you have something potent that is like stronger in the situation. So in this case, that's your special documents from your spy kit. Sometimes scale matters if like you're bigger or you're fighting something a lot smaller. And then just like tactical advantages, kind of footing can adjust things too. So in this case, I'm going to give you that 3rd check in the grid. We've filled out the first line. And in Restore the Warp, every time you fill a row like this, at the end of a row, I do something. There's some kind of change in the story to help the momentum and stakes keep going. So if you've only had 2, I would have said that you're still kind of stuck in this barricade area, and maybe you have to move through slowly and someone's going to notice like a logo on your ship or something. But with all 3 of them checked, I'm going to say that you've made it through that barricade now and you're kind of free flying down towards the planet. As you're getting closer, the reason I chose this world, this kind of like jungle world, I named it Greenery, was because I thought it would be a nice contrast with those ice statues we talked about earlier. So you're heading towards like this big jungle world, but you see these huge ice statues kind of all around, dotting the world as you're coming down here. And you can see ahead of you, you've got a radar blip going off, like you're maybe sensitive to divine energies or something, because that seems like a bit of the vibe on our ship. Maybe Winter has a device for this. So you can see the location with all these energies going off that you're heading towards. I'm going to say it's got a ring of these ice statues around it. That'll give it a nice kind of visual flair as well.
We've got God's sign.
Yeah, this is the point I was going to ask a couple questions to help us flesh it out. So I've got a chart for this in my book where there's different questions I can talk about. I feel like I've kind of done the first two ideas of like setting the outline and some striking details for it. Just looking at the time, it might be almost time for break again after we set up the scene a bit better. But Jax, I'll start with you this time. Can you roll 1d6?
It's a 2.
A 2. So what ties it to other worlds? This is a question about the cosmic history. This could be something you see or something that you know, because we're saying that you've been here before. What connects this to other places that you've been before?
I mean, I don't want to go too obvious, but I mean, it's the obvious presence of the Empire. It's these, ice statues that impossibly don't melt even in this like crazy humid jungle climate rather.
That fits. Like, we've been fighting them for a while. We've seen these things before. Megan, can you roll 1d6?
Yes, 5.
5. So you're getting some personal history attachments here. What reminds Jim of her home? Something here makes you feel kind of nostalgic.
I think the humidity of the jungle really makes me think of home because it's very humid here, right? You said it's kind of jungly with ice statues.
Yeah, I don't know how much you can feel that on your ship. Maybe the windows are starting to do up or something.
I see. Right. I forgot I was still on a spaceship. I was just already in that jungle, just there. But yeah, okay. So just thinking of it, I know that it's going to be humid. I'm already thinking about the climate and yeah, just the physicality of it makes me think of the planet where I grew up.
Cool. And John, 1d6?
That's a 6.
Interesting. Yeah, this might have some overlap because your column is about sensory details. So it's just what gives off heat or cold. I guess we've got obviously the jungle and the statues here. You could add something different, or you could roll again if you want something that we haven't discussed yet.
No, okay, maybe we'll roll again then. Yeah, that's fairly obvious. I think the temperature we've already well established. 3.
What has obvious texture?
Oh, obvious texture. Yeah, I mean, I guess the jungle itself is going to have foliage and all these kinds of things. But so we're coming in where it's getting humid, but we're still on the ship. We're looking at all of this stuff.
It's okay to go with obvious things. I just like asking these questions because saying them helps it stick more in your memory.
For sure, yeah. I mean, I think there's like this sort of glistening quality to the ice statues. It's interesting that they never melt. I wonder how that works. Very interesting. Like, obviously, there's a lot of high tech here. There's something so hubristic about that. But yeah, just this constant kind of clash between maybe there's like steam actually. That's kind of an interesting idea, like the humidity and the ice statues. Like, are they melting? I guess they don't melt, but maybe they're being regenerated in some way, or the clash of temperatures is producing these kind of clouds or something like that.
That is super cool.
Yeah. Like fog,
I love that.
Yeah, like this vapor rising up. Yeah,
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
Great. I was thinking of taking a break here. Like I said, this will also help me plan a little bit. Just general idea, I guess. I don't know if you want to fly all the way to the site on your ship, or if you're planning to like jump off and sneak your way in on foot.
That might make more sense.
Yeah, that probably makes more sense, taking a stealthier approach.
Parking seems difficult in a jungle on a starship, so.
Yeah, I don't know. How hard is landing?
How big is our ship?
How hard is landing sounds like a good question for dice, so that maybe that'll be a fun thing to come back on.